Sand going through nether portals, re-adding my thorns glitch, and many decade-old bugs finally getting resolved. Hello there, Ray here. This is all part of a new 1.21 snapshot for Java Edition 24W19A. So leave a like and let's take a look at everything new. They came out with some chunk loading improvements today. Now when already reading a generated chunk from the disk, the surrounding chunks will no longer unnecessarily get loaded. And this can be seen when you load up a world. This little diagram here actually shows which chunks are being loaded. Notice how it just immediately shows like a little white dot and then we hop right into the world. Go ahead and crank up our render distance as well as our simulation distance and also try it out. Same world, log into it. There's a little diagram right there. You can see just one little square and then all of a sudden everything is just being loaded in game. So there's not like that much of a wait time on the actual menu. There's also a new system that has less memory and CPU overhead. This is great because a lot of times my CPU gets like maxed out. I'm working towards upgrading my computer, so if you guys want to help out, join as one of my Patreons. 4 new ambient cave sounds were added into Minecraft. You've probably ran into this problem where when mobs would grow up from a baby to an adult, when they got bigger they would end up clipping into the walls and they could end up suffocating and dying. Or they could end up clipping through and escaping from your pin. This bug has been a game since 2013 and has finally been fixed. This has been a problem in quite a few farms, including my chicken farm using looting with a fox. Here you see I had to put in a bunch of hoppers along the edge. In case some baby chick here grew up and end up over here when you get killed, the items could still get picked up and collected down below. By the way, if you haven't seen it, I did an entire video going over every single type of farm that can run without a player. This is perfect for putting in your spawn chunks in a single player world or at your base and chunk loading them in a multiplayer server. So check out all 28 farms after this video. I'll have it linked down below. Pop quiz. What's going to happen when I push this anvil into this nether portal here while it's falling? Well, this is actually a common question people would ask me when it came to different types of falling blocks. And as you can see, the anvil went right through the portal and did not get teleported by the actual nether portal. Now this is different than when it comes to like the end dimension. End portal will actually let the entities go through and teleport them into the end dimension. And this was actually a bug in the game for over 11 years. But now it's fixed so the stuff can go through portals. So you might be wondering, since these falling blocks can go through portals, does that mean we open up a new way to duplicate without just having to use end portals and now also use nether portals? Well, it might be a possibility. The way my sand generator design here works is that the block gets picked up and dropped, so it turns into an entity. And you can see the hitbox if you're inside of it. This means when this piston comes out with the slime, it does move it through the air and gets it really close to this portal here. And because it's still an entity and it touches the portal, it gets teleported over to the end dimension. But at the same time, it also lands on the top of this block here, and it recognizes that it should also convert from an entity over into a block. So it turns into a block while the other entity went over to end dimension, creating 2 sands out of 1. And with my nether portal chunk loader loading this side, we can go over to the end dimension and actually watch the sand entity version come through as the duplicate. And then this is what we're actually breaking down and collecting in order to make a sand farm. So switching out the end portals with nether portals, they do constantly update and try to break off. But if we head through here, and you can see the sand actually did come through, but I'll have to do more testing on this. And you can watch me test live over at my Twitch live streams. Now Minecraft mode's always been a bit glitchy. There were some pretty weird glitches where you could clip into blocks. A lot of them have been fixed over time, but this one here was still in the game. It appears that the player is sinking down to the ground and the boat's kind of just jittering there. And you can see if we get out of the boat, all of a sudden the boat clips through the ground and actually fell through underneath. This is one way you could clip through some blocks if you're like trying to get into some secret base. And I showed a bunch of these clipping boat glitches in this video here, but now this one's no longer in the game. Now the dupe bug from last week, where you can put an item in and then just keep pulling out more items from the single crafted one in the center here, was fixed this week. Another bug from 2013 had to do with spamming, and you could actually spam so much in single player that you could have the game kick you from your own world for spamming in the chat. Now this was a fun thing people would do, and it didn't really cause too much harm, but it was still a bug, so it finally got fixed. Let me know if you knew about this one. This next old bug had to do with brewing. You can make progress in your brewing stand, But then when the chunks get unloaded, when they were reloaded again, notice that the brewing progress got completely reset and had to start all over again. This will no longer happen, so if your auto brewer is on the edge of chunks so it's constantly getting loaded and unloaded, you'll still be able to make progress and get tons of potions in the meanwhile. Ever threw an ender pearl and then when you went to spectator mode and your pearl hit, you actually got teleported even though you're in spectator mode. While this apparently wasn't intended, so now if you don't want to get teleported by a pearl while you're testing something, you can always switch it to spectator mode really quickly. By the way, quite a few of you guys ask how I'm able to switch from creative to spectator mode or from survival into spectator mode so quickly. This is by pressing F3 plus N, which I have mapped onto my controller. And yes, I play Java on a controller. Now when it came to using overstacked items, you typically can't get these in survival, but I have shown some glitches where you could get something like this in the past. I'll put them down in the description. But oftentimes when using these, if you'd place down whatever was inside of something like a bucket, or if it had some other type of use, it would switch a whole stack to just a single one. There was also a positive to this. If you guys see my past videos where I had like overstacked music disc and use them on a jukebox, you can actually duplicate the music disc by doing this. That's no longer possible, and they also fix all bugs related to overstacked things changing when being used. So if you do have some overstacked stuff in your world, you're less likely to destroy it by accident. Now when using a dispenser with glass bottles to harvest from some bee nest, typically what happens if the dispenser is full, it will scoop up some of the honey and then it will drop the honey bottle inside of the nest and it'll get picked up by the hopper down below. But if there is a space in the dispenser, the honey bottle will end up back in here. Now all this is normal and fine, but now the honey bottles are stackable up to 16. We'd expect if any more honey bottles get picked up from this dispenser, they would end up stacking on top of this one rather than falling to the ground. So that's what they changed. So now if you do have any space in here, it's going to stack up to 16 and then all the rest are going to continue to get dropped. So just make sure you have a chest with some extra glass bottles so it continually keeps this dispenser full. That way none of the honey bottles can end up being picked up from that, and instead they'll all end up being picked up by the chest and hoppers underneath. Now with last week's big changes to enchantments, a few bugs were accidentally created, such as the quick charge enchantment wasn't actually charging up things quickly. Enchantments that are supposed to do more damage to certain types of mobs now work. Soul Speed Boots was making your FOB constantly switch when jumping on Soul Sand. Riptide enchantment not actually working properly. Sweeping attacks not being consistent. Offhand Fire Aspect could apply fire onto the mobs hit with the trident. Any type of waterlogged block when it got in contact with Frostwalker Boot would just get immediately deleted. A similar problem was also in the game when they first introduced waterlogged blocks. Bane of Arthropod Storm would once again give the correct slowness enchant effect onto spiders as they accidentally made it lower last snapshot. Lighting candles while they're underwater, which is normally not possible, so you can collect these as a rare if you do that in snapshots. The Fire Aspect enchantment, which is used to now light candles by clicking on them, was accidentally also made so you could light up copper bulbs, light up a furnace, light up redstone blocks, light up redstone torches, or light even a campfire. But none of these enchantment bugs were intended, really fixed this and all the previous ones. But this is a cool way to get some glitched out blocks like this furnace which is on yet there's nothing cooking. They also fixed one of the bugs I reported, which is lighting candles with your Fire Aspect sword wasn't making any vibrations that the Sculk sensor could hear, despite lighting candles other ways would actually create a signal. So now you can use the Sculk sensor as like a secret way to get into your base by lighting some candles with the sword that you already carry along with you, and then going over and signaling a sensor to open up a secret entrance. This is pretty nice because you don't even need to have a special type of tool or weapon, but just use what you have on you. Freezing water with Frostwalker also activates sensors now. The trick I discovered where holding a Thorns item in your hand would actually give you the Thorn effect was removed last snapshot when they changed up the whole enchantment thing. But this trick was actually determined to be working as intended, so they re-added it into the game, which lets you have a higher chance of doing Thorns back at a mob than you typically would just by having a full set of Thorns armor. I use this in my AFK dragon killing machine and other AFK looting farms. Now the Windburst enchantment wasn't working consistently, and sometimes players would actually take fall damage even if they were successful. So that was fixed, and also a few other ones related to the mace. Like you can once again add Fire Aspect onto it, and if you have any type of Breach enchantment on it, you will not be able to add the Density one as well, as this was seen as being too OP. Maces will now once again be able to push everything when they hit onto stuff, right before they were forgetting to push players back. The drop rate when it came to wither skulls from wither skeletons was accidentally reduced by a percentage, so now it's back to the previous drop rate. Now they accidentally messed up mining, and you can see it can take like repeated tries before you can actually break something. So in the newest snapshot, this is resolved. And knockback will be applied to the player properly, and it won't be applied to the player when sitting on top of campfires, which is so funny. It looks like the campfire is just trying to shove you off of it. Now when it comes to finding a ominous trial spawner, they'll spawn in things like potion effects, but they can also spawn in arrows with potion effects. These arrows would be just normal arrows that happen to give you the potion effect, but now they'll actually spawn in actual tipped arrows. They made a change to copper balls, but it only has to do with the sound. Instead of having a designated on and off sound, they have one sound. I think it's just played at 2 different pitches. The game will no longer crash when trying to upgrade zombie villagers from version 1.9 to the most recent one. With the data pack being updated to version 43, there's now an option to give food a new component, where after you eat a food, it'll be swapped out with a different item. They also came in and renamed a lot of different types of tags. Entity effects types got some new triggers, and there's a special predicate which lets you decide if you want damage to be direct or indirect. There's also quite a few bugs related to commands got fixed, as well as less noticeable bugs and some other variety. Now watch me try to design a sand duper using nether portals. That's over at my Twitch livestream, link down below, and I do stream every Wednesday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday at 2 p.m. Eastern. I'll see y'all over there. Bye bye!